Great defeaters, new and old, welcome back to another riveting episode of The Breakdown with your hosts, BaseDaKID and Tony, the Pugilist Boy. We are the children of the game. Tony, how are you? How was your weekend?
From a boxing and football perspective, I couldn't have asked for more. I was inundated with wonderful things, great company. Great to see some of the defeaters this weekend down at Wembley Oval Arena. Those that I did meet, I know there were some that I didn't get a chance to see. But yeah, definitely was the highlight of the weekend, being at that facility and being amongst, some wonderful people in the boxing circle who I love to be around and catch up with. But actually, since then, I've been ill. I have been madly ill with bad head cold. So much so that I've been in bed for 2 days. I'm literally doing the show and I'm going straight back to bed. So that's me. How are you, Base?
Well, I guess I'm considerably better than that. But yeah, overall, can't complain. Decent weekend. Some all right fights to review. There was a good card that was on Friday as well, but obviously I know many people probably haven't watched that. So if you get a chance again, if you got a DAZN subscription, check out the Friday card, the MVP. It's like one of their step up cards, so their prospects. But yeah, the most valuable promotions, Jake Paul's promotional company. Some decent fights on there if you guys haven't seen it. But yeah, otherwise, um, let's get this one on the road so you can get back off the bed. And I've got plans a little bit later on. So let's start with Conor Benn.
Lucky lady.
Let's start with Conor Benn and Peter Dobson. I'll let you take it away, seeing as you weren't here last week and the people missed you.
Well, thank you very much to the people. I'm sorry I missed the show last week. I will also be missing the show next week. But before we do that, we haven't made our usual thanks to the people who are in the chat. Do you want to
Let's
go
do
ahead with
this
that
first.
for me, please?
Let's address this comment first. Go ahead.
Yes, indeed. So rest in peace to Kazuki Anaguchi, who unfortunately suffered head blows in his last fight, which both Base and I watched, and at the end of the fight was fitting quite badly. It had been a few weeks. We were hopeful that he would be in a slightly better condition, but unfortunately things took a turn for the worse, and he unfortunately passed away last week. On the very said same day, we lost another boxing hero, somebody who many will have been sorry to see. One of my favorite actors, definitely one from Predator. I loved his role in Predator. He's been in several films that I really enjoyed. Carl Weathers. So to both those gentlemen, rest in peace. Salute. Thank you very much for your contribution to the sport of boxing.
Indeed. Right, so in the chat, first was Tyler MF Durden. Big up to you. Bigsy Biggs was number 2. He has to watch the replay as he's at work, but respect you for coming in. I will address the question you asked me as well. Dan the Man, hardest working guy on Twitex. Big ups to you. SC15's finest. Untraceable in the building. Spoker D in the building. Michael Januario as well. Also got Jonah31, one of the OG subscribers to the channel. Daniel J. Boateng, and obviously Philip Ansar, who allowed us to give that little tribute. So bless up to you as well. All right, Tony, go for it.
Okay, so I'm gonna take from the get-go. I have no interest in Conor Benn. I'm anti Conor Benn. I'm gonna say it from the get-go. I'm really not interested in his career right now. I believe it's just smoke and mirrors. I have not seen his fight. I have no interest in seeing his fight. The issue with the eggs and the drugs and whatever contamination has been the worst managed situation in the game of boxing in years. And as a result, I'm gonna leave that to you, my brother. So here's your little bit of footage. Not even footage, it's just pictures from the fight for you to talk over and tell me what you thought.
Okay. Right. So watching this fight, Conor started fast as he usually does. I had a feeling that this fight would go the distance, purely because I've seen some footage of Peter Dobson before. I've seen that he's a very defensively astute type of guy. He seems to take those first couple of rounds to sort of almost take what you have in the ring, and then he comes back and will sort of at that point, he will basically sort of try and impose his will, wear you down, and sort of go to work when you're a bit more tired, which is what he did attempt to do in this fight. He picked up several rounds to me, especially towards the end of the fight, once Conor had, carried on throwing heavy shots, maybe started to run a bit tired. Conor, sort of, his defense was pretty leaky in this one. He's always seems to be sharp the first 3, 4, 5 rounds, and then after that, he seems to have an issue with keeping his arms up, keeping his hands up. And in that moment, I guess it just became a point to say he kind of got through the rest of it fairly comfortably. I'm not going to say that it was never an easy fight. He got caught with uppercuts way too much for my liking, and that just tells me that if he's in there with opposition that are actually of a better standard, or at least heavier punchers, then he could come a cropper. But Dobson was, like I said, defensively astute. He made it a fight, and he made Conor have to work. So overall, it was a fairly entertaining fight to watch. It wasn't like a great performance, but it was still entertaining and it was intriguing. And there were moments where you thought, oh, could this be slipping away? Not necessarily on the cards, but maybe you take a shot, go down, start to get tired and get sort of dominated in that fashion. Didn't quite go that way. The scorecards were way too wide in support of Conor. I think one of them was 119, 109, and I think the other two were 118, 110. Both of which I think was way too generous to Conor. I had Dobson winning minimum 4 rounds at a push. There was an argument to say he could have got 5, but yeah. It was a decent main event for an afternoon card in Las Vegas. Didn't really pull up any trees, didn't do anything of note, but I'm sure people in attendance at least had some interest, or at least some entertainment, enjoyment watching it. What I will say though, Tony, is regardless of what you think of the career, it's part of our job here to watch, especially the main events, if nothing else. So like you kind of got to do the highlights at least. You have to give a take on the fight. There's how many times has there been fighters I've got no interest in and I still watch the fight. That's what you got to do on the show. And if not that, maybe I'll actually no. You know what? I'll say that after. I'll save that for after. But I feel like you should have at least watched the highlights of it to say I wasn't able to watch it live. I checked the highlights, didn't have time to watch the rest of it. These are my thoughts, and then go into I have no interest in his career. But hey, let's move on to the next. You're muted, so I can't hear you. But let's move on to the next fight on that card.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go. I won't linger the point too much. Conor Benn was one of my favorite fighters up until Drudgate, and ever since, everything he does, every move he's made, and bearing in mind, I'm a real big fan and advocate of Eddie Hearn. Yeah, every move he's made has been awful. And if I'm being honest, I have watched the highlights, but I've made a stance. I don't commentate on misfits, and this guy to me doesn't deserve to be given any time or credit until he clears himself. I would have the same feeling about any other fighter who's gone down that route. Now, if you've done it and you've served your time, you commit the crime, you served your time, and you come back, fine. So Big Baby Miller, fine, you've done your time. Yeah, I'm still not his best fan. I still think he's an idiot that will do wrong somewhere along the line. But ultimately, he's done his time, and he's come out and just gone, I'm going to do my time. Conor Benn, until you do something that emboldens yourself back to the public, that's going to be my feelings. You know, it's very bitter pill, I'm afraid.
Tony, you do realize the NADP cleared him, right? The people that the UCAD go to, those are the people that cleared him to lift the suspension.
Okay, all right, fine. I'll watch his next one. I personally,
it's not even that, but I understand. I get what you're trying to say, but ultimately, the reason he's fighting is because his suspension has been lifted.
Okay, and you know what? I know there are always ways around this, that, and the other. Yeah, I'm no fool, Base. I've been in this game long enough. Yeah, I know what dirt looks like. Yes, you can go around the houses and find somebody somewhere to clear you. Yeah, and you get and you go on and do what you got to do. Yeah, but ultimately, yeah, I'm just gonna sit on my fence and be that guy. I might look at the next one. He might.
Okay, so his appeal is actually, I think, supposed to be next week. So if he wins the appeal and they keep the suspension lifted, are you gonna be happy with that, or are you still gonna have the same stance?
So sorry, repeat that for me, please.
His appeal is supposed to be taking place next week, from what I've heard, right? Okay. So if the NADP uphold their initial decision to lift the suspension and allow him to box, the British Board of Boxing Control will have no choice. If he asks to apply for a license, they legally won't be allowed to stop him from boxing over here unless he does like a criminal act or something like that. So therefore, if he wins that, are you going to change your stance, or is your stance going to be the same? That's what I'm asking.
No, I will change my stance. Good luck to Conor Benn. Really, I mean, you know, I've got no previous desire to see him fall from grace, but I have a stance when it comes to drugs in sport, whether it be football, whether it be boxing, whether it be wrestling. Me and drug taking is just cheating. Simple as. Yeah. If you do stupidness like Margarita and start doing stuff with your raps and shit, then as far as I'm concerned, end of. My interest in you as a fighter goes, and you have to do something above and beyond to regain my interest.
Okay, cool. Right. What's the next fight on that card you'd like to speak about? We got Johnny Fisher, we got Amal Williams, we got Khil Cole.
Okay, well, I've got a little bit of each of those guys. Obviously, each of those had a stoppage. I mean, the Johnny Fisher was rapid as hell. His fight against Bezos, literally, I don't know how many seconds it was, but the demolition job was pretty simple. He just went to town on the opponent from the get-go, showed that, you know, look, as soon as he got wind that he had hurt him, he went into demolition mode and, you know, took his guy out. And again, I will probably say this up to back up something I say to my kids at training. If you get a guy on the ropes and you continue to throw punches at them without them responding, where their hands are up, just defending, and they can't do something, you will get a standing count. Yeah? You will get a standing count at the very least. Sometimes you'll get a stoppage. So for my boxers, this is the lesson. Don't ever get caught on the ropes. Worse still, get caught in a corner. That's the worst place you can get caught. But, you know, look, I like Johnny Fisher. I'm glad that he's now experiencing boxing outside of his local neighborhood. You know, he's got the opportunity there to fight on a Saturday afternoon card in Las Vegas. I know what a gym rat he is. And each time I see him, he looks like he's getting better and fitter. And I said it a while ago, I think it's not long before we start talking his name up with the current crop of heavyweight next-gen fighters, your likes of Fably Wardley and Fraser Clark, etc. I think it's not going to be long before Johnny Fresher needs his name to be in that group of fighters, and for him to start looking at taking on some of those elevated British fighters.
Okay. Yeah, look, I respect the fact that he oh, by the way, don't put that footage back up because that's the zone stuff. I'm sure that they've clocked that already. Yeah, we've got I looked at the performance. It was pretty good. I thought at one point he was maybe throwing a bit too heavy. So he was like, okay, if I don't get you out of here in the first round, what happens? Now, I predicted he would be within sort of the first two, similar to Adelier, but at that point, when he started sort of winging them in, and Bezos looked like he was quite comfortable in taking them, especially when he was on the ropes initially, my thought was, oh, he might sort of almost he might blow a gasket, he might wear himself out, and then the guy may try and sort of come back later. But to be fair, his conditioning is much better than it used to be. Obviously, he had good punch selection, and he wasn't, after that initial first salvo, he started to actually vary the power. It wasn't just throwing everything into the shots like he was doing prior. He actually, tapped a bit. Then he would just throw in the hard jab, and then he would fling in the right hand behind it. Everything was always up and down. He was attacking the body and the head. And then Bezos obviously got trapped on the ropes. I don't think at that point he was hurt. I still think he could have carried on, but he was about 10, 12 seconds unanswered at that point. So it made sense why the referee made the decision he made. It was only going to go one way at that point. In terms of where he goes, like moving, I mean, he's still improving. He's the southern area, so his next step is to try and fight for the English title. Obviously, that what we believe now will be contested between Adelier and Dacus. I don't know if he's ready for either of those two just yet. Maybe, you never know. But he's got heart. Obviously, he's got stamina, and he's just a really naturally solid big guy. And sometimes that counts for more than you think. Not all the time, but sometimes. And I think his work rate and the pace that he looks like he's fighting at the moment might just be a bit too ferocious for some of those guys who prefer having that time to sort of think and strategize in the ring. So maybe that bulldozer approach is the best tactic for him in this moment while he's still in his limited stage. But good performance, and big ups to him for managing to bring out 150, 200 people into the arena. They made it lively out there. I'm sure the US crowds and the people in attendance who maybe aren't used to seeing British shows was like, oh, what's this? This is different. But if it wasn't for them, maybe the whole event itself wouldn't have been as lively, wouldn't have sounded as good as it did on the TV, because it sounded pretty good from the start of the event to the end. And I think a lot of that is a tribute to him and the crowd that he did bring out. So big ups to him. And at the end of the day, he's a good, honest lad. So while I don't expect anything great from him, he's living his dream and he's applying himself, which is the main thing. I can't be too critical of someone that's at least trying and they are, getting better. So I'm gonna leave it there. Congrats to him.
There's a couple of comments in the chat about Johnny Fisher that I think we just want to touch on very quickly.
Very quick. I'm assuming you think this one, right?
And the one next. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think Johnny Fisher versus Moses Atam is a good fight, especially for this matchroom versus Queensbury fight in Saudi? Actually, no. I don't think. I think Moses as an athlete, as a prospect, as a boxer, at this point, I think he's, even though obviously he's, I guess, less fights than Johnny, he's of a better standing. There's a reason he's been mandated for that English title, while Johnny's just about getting mandated to fight for the southern area at this point. They're levels above. While it's not a quote unquote mismatch, it's very heavily favored in Moses Atama's favor, even though he is much younger. I think Johnny's coming into, I think he's 24 this year. Obviously, Moses is 19. I think going to be 20 this year. My my pick for that, I've said it all along, is actually for Moses Atalma to fight Justice Hooney. That's who I would have as. While Hooney, yeah, he's probably a bit more further along in his career. He's a smaller heavyweight, doesn't hit as hard as the others, but he's got the amateur experience. Even though Moses doesn't have the adult amateur, he's, you know, decorated youth amateur. So I think that would be a better matchup. And speaking of Justice Hooney, he's going to be fighting Kevin Lorena on the Andy Joshua Francis Ngannou undercard. So I should be speaking to him soon. But that's a pretty good fight for him and a good test. Johnny Fisher is going to be protected like Conor Benn, probably, and I don't blame them. He's a money spinner. He's got a guaranteed audience every time he comes out. And as long as he's, you know, at the end of the day, that's what the promoters are in the game for, to make money. He doesn't have to be one of their shining, you know, sort of their shining prospect or their shining diamonds in the rough. He can coast, and they've got more than enough other people to take the world titles. Just have him in fun fights until you get to a point where he can't improve anymore. Then you find out what his level is, whether that's British, whether that's European, whether he's able to take a crack at a world title. No problem. But he doesn't need any type of rushing at this point, and let the money keep coming in for now. Right, let's go with the Khil Cole fight next, since that was another short one. Then we can go Amal Williams, and then we move on to the boxer card.
Okay. So Khil Cole, someone that we've talked about several times. Each time he's performed, you know, he's been a highlight reel boxer, and yeah, once again, pretty much highlight reel stuff from Khil Cole. He is technically a very good boxer. You know, look at the head movement. You know, he sets up shots well. He has a good jab, good distance control. You'll know he'll come in now for the hook to the body. You know, the knowledge to know that I'm gonna come in, yeah, gonna keep myself tight, and then find my feet move first. Feet move first. Very important aspect of what he does here. Touch, bang. Bang, there you go. You know, very, very exciting fighter. You'll see the other two knockdowns in that round coming up shortly, but essentially a very good demolition job from Khil. You know, he knows when he's got you hurt. You know, he knows how to finish you off. Obviously, his opponent there wasn't quite recovered from that initial first body shot, and obviously it was just a case of going straight back to that body, and then he catches him straight down the middle to finish him off here. If you look, boom, straight down the middle, and that was a jab, straight down the middle, and that was it. All she wrote. Yeah, I mean, what can I say about Khil Cole? I am so happy to see him fight. He's always, as I said, a highlight performance, good technical aspect to his game, good ring control, generalship. I look forward to seeing him in bigger fights. I think I may have said that the last time round when we did an analysis of one of his fights. So I'm kind of feeling the time is right now. And I think I have seen his name linked with a few big names at the end of that fight.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they said this was supposed to be a quote-unquote step up. Opponent 20-0, 18 KOs, you know, Mexican. I guess maybe if it was at a weight class like 140, 147, maybe 126, that might have rang true. But, you know, Mexico is very much a place, the higher up the weights you go, a bit like the women's division, the thinner the talent becomes. But that being said, like, Khil Cole did what he needed to do. It didn't even have to be a flashy highlight reel. He broke his opponent down to the body. even when he was just imposing the jab in the first round, it's like every time he threw the jab and that jab connected, like as soon as his head just snapped back, and it was like it moved him, it visibly moved him. His whole body had to move with the jab. So I was impressed. I mean, yes, I want to see, I guess, maybe what he does with an opponent that I know, and I know fully their quality or who they've been in there with. So there are people. He said he wants to come over here. He wants to face the, the Craig Richards, the Joshua Boatsies, the Dan Azizes, the Anthony Yards. I don't think any of those would take that fight now because of how little fights and how little his profile is in relation to them. But yeah, I think maybe a good opponent for him would be someone like a Lerone Richards at this point, who's got that movement. So see how he deals with the movement. Someone that's maybe not a big puncher, but is technically sound. Can you break him down? Can you win that battle? Which I would be confident of. Then maybe you go to like a Willie Hutchinson or a Zach Parker, a Shakan Pitters, someone like that. If you're coming to the UK, where we're talking about, then from there you get like a Ricards Bolotniks, you get a Dominic Bozell, Krasnitsky, and then maybe once you've got some of those names on the record, the other British guys will take that test. I mean, I know someone like Dan would, but that's not really a fight I don't want him turning into a gatekeeper or playing that kind of role. But yeah, look, big ups to Khil Cole. Everyone knows I've been sort of high on him and his talent from day dot. So it's good that he's sort of making moves. Let's just keep those moves going, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up on that 5 for 5 card. If I was him, I'd be shouting for it. But yeah, we'll see what happens moving forward with that one. Right, let's talk about Amal Williams. Now this fight obviously was it was different to, I guess, the fight we initially were supposed to have, because he was supposed to be facing Conor Coyle, who I believe was 17-0 with 9 KOs. So someone more on the same level as him in terms of like his experience. And instead he was facing what was his name? Umbomba Yassa. I can't remember his first name. I think it was Armel. Yeah, I was about to say Armel. I think it was Armel. This was an interesting fight to me because he was like, okay, this is my moment.
Forgot to take the sound off.
Typical Tony. Yeah, look, to give it his due credit, his opponent was good. He was tough. He was durable. He came in there. He tried to win. He did his best. So I've got to rate him for that. He was falling short a lot of the time, but when he was able to get into range, there was several times he did cause some problems to Williams. He never hit him with anything that I think that hurt him, but he hit him with a few things that I probably made him say, yeah, okay, I gotta behave here. I can't get reckless. I gotta be sensible. But he broke down to the body. There was a couple times he got him along the ropes and he was unloading, but he was targeting body before head, which was something that he doesn't usually do. He normally likes to go for those highlight reel headshots, but he actually took some time to the body. He was investing in the body from early. But Ambabayasa was still going, he was coming forward almost every round, and he was competitive. He made it a fight. It was probably slightly a bit too soon for him. He probably needed a little bit more experience outside of, I think he was fighting in Senegal for most of his bouts. I'm not quite sure if that's accurate, but I know he was fighting out of Africa for the majority. But I definitely actually like him. I think he would be good for future tests. But the left hand that took him out in the 7th round, that definitely could be one of those candidates for that KO of the year. Not because obviously he left slumped on the ground, but how far back he dropped, slid him through the ropes almost onto the ringside table. it was a power shot and a half, and obviously he couldn't recover from that. Referee counts him out, and yeah, Amal Williams moves on. And again, I'm pretty sure that he's gonna be screaming at Eddie, "I want the 5v5. That put my name in there. Choose middleweight, and and then after that he can go on and look for those world titles, because I think I think he's going to be. I think he was ranked number 3 before then, so more than likely he's going to end up going to number 2 or a number 1 spot with I think it's the WBA. So yeah, and that middleweight, the WBA champion is Lara, and he's fighting Michael Zarafa next. So yeah, all you got to do is just bide your time. Even though it's on PBC Island at the moment, you get that you call for that mandatory, and they've got no choice but to fight you or to vacate the title. So yeah, I think good performance, and I feel like he'll be he'll be moving from strength to strength. Biggest thing for him, just like everyone else, activity. Once they got the activity, everything else follows. And when you've got the activity as well, you don't take opponents lightly either, because you're still working and improving on things, I feel. So that's what I feel is best for him. A bit more activity, get out. If it's not June, then try and get out on the card before then. Try and fight 4 times this year if you can, if not 3 times minimum, and keep going.
Cool. Yeah, nothing to add to that. I mean, again, Amal Williams, definitely an exciting fighter. Histrionics at the weigh-in against his opponent, who I just looked up, has spent he's actually fighting out of Germany, so most of his fights have been at Leverkusen. I think like probably about 8 of his 10 fights prior to the fight on Saturday were in Germany.
Okay.
So yeah, good performance from Amo. I pretty much agree with everything you said, so nothing to add.
Okay, cool. Right, so let's move over to the boxer card. I guess first thing, let me just say, the one fight from that card I haven't actually been able to watch yet was Jamie TKV's fight. So shout out to Jamie. Obviously, most people will know, he's managed.
Oh dear. You know what? Just watch it for 30 seconds.
Missing out on the body. Go. Step in. Yeah, throw that right hand, come back with a left hook to the body. Good. Whoa.
So yeah, all footage is my own from a very vantage point in the balcony, as you could see. In terms of the performance, I was left kind of underwhelmed by it. In all honesty, I don't feel like Jamie's doing enough to up his work rate. I think he's still very raw in his foot movement. So he misses a lot of shots, he throws shots, and then miles away. They're miles away from the opponent. And as I said earlier, when we look at other fighters who are at a higher level, moving your feet is the most important thing. Moving into range so that when you throw punches, they hit. If your first shot doesn't hit, your second shot should definitely hit. Putting together punches, he seems to be very naive about as well. So he's very, yes, I was wearing a burgundy suit. So yeah, he just needed to, in my opinion, look at what he's done. He's still carrying way too much weight. He needs to get back in the gym and start losing a few pounds, improve his movement, improve his speed. Because when I look at that performance and compare it with Johnny Fisher, it's like chalk and cheese. They got one guy who plods through 6 rounds. That was a 6-rounder. And then you got another guy who comes out from the get-go and puts it on his man. And we've seen that he can do that. So, yeah, I just don't have much more to say other than work in progress as far as Jamie TKV is concerned. He's got a crowd. He's definitely got a following. You could probably hear some of the crowd roaring his name and unlike some of the other fighters on the bill. He definitely has a crowd, but he needs to basically up the ante in terms of his work rate if he's going to be in this game for much longer.
Yeah, obviously, I didn't see it. I've got it recorded, but they just haven't put it out on YouTube, so I wasn't able to watch it there, and I haven't had a chance to go to the main TV in the house and watch that. I guess I got a funny story about the crowd, actually. Seeing as I haven't seen it, I'll take a minute to say that. So I went to his fight that he had at Alexandra Palace, whereby I think he actually ended up going on after the broadcast. That was one of the first times I saw Shannon Ryan in live. It was when Adam Azim fought Ryland Charlton in the main event. And in that, I remember in that particular fight, his crowd, as you said, they're very they're loud and everything, but they was being a bit too boisterous, like banging, sort of banging chairs. They was jumping on chairs and making up a whole load of noise to the point where like security was coming, like, you guys gotta relax, you guys gotta chill out. And then they was starting to argue with security, and I was there with my friend, my good friend Sasha, and she's like, "No, I can't be associated with these people." And then the whole time back, she was vexed and was telling me about, you see, this is why we can't go nowhere. It's why we can't have nice things. Why can't these people just behave themselves, like showing up everyone in a bad light and rare, rare. And I was like, I mean, I can't argue with you. I feel that I get it. I understand why you're upset, but yeah. So his crowd, he's got a crowd, but maybe he needs to rein them in a bit as well. Maybe they need to, maybe come correct just a little bit more. But hey, at least he's got people that support him. That's what I will say. But big ups to him. As Tony said, I guess keep improving, keep getting better, and hopefully we will chop it up in the future. I was supposed to chat to him on Thursday last week, but I was sort of in a different space doing any and everything else apart from doing interviews. Danny from the chat will tell you how my mentality was on that day. But yeah, all right, moving on from there. Quick word on Franchesca Hennessy. I like her confidence. She's doing what she needs to do. Like, obviously 3-0 now. Still a baby, like 19 years old. I haven't really got much to say with regards to that. The only thing I will particularly say is this whole thing about, she's got the dance moves and that coming to the ring. I don't know what I'm supposed to be grading that against, because look, okay, fair enough, this might be a very bad comparison, or it might be very unfair, but I don't see her doing anything that Clarissa Shields hasn't slayed coming to the ring. I don't see her doing anything better than Alicia Baumgardner, or even like what's the name, who else dances to the ring, even the one that the girl that Alicia fought in the last fight. Christina, well, whatever, I can't remember her surname now. She danced. I see loads of people dancing. I don't see what the big fascination they're making with this whole her dancing to the ring thing. I don't get it. It just looks like she's moving, you know, and like bobbing her head. I mean, a lot of people do that. Maybe there's a
Base,
one.
where are you taking us,
Christina
buddy?
Leonardo
This is a
too. That's it.
this
Thank
is
you
a
very much, Danny.
this is a boxing show. You're talking about dancing.
Yeah, but no, because let's not forget who was the person that orchestrated the best dancing. It was Beatrice Ferreira after the fight. Remember that? That was classic. So this is what I'm expecting when I hear people talk about dance moves, like, you know. So, but yeah, maybe I'm judging her by too harsh of a standard. Who knows? But anyway, yeah, she done well. So congrats to her. Fairly confident. I had an issue with the referee in that fight really quickly because obviously the opponent is, I believe, Argentinian, so speaks Spanish. From what it looked like, doesn't speak any English. So when you've got the guy trying to give or is giving instructions like he's talking to someone from Essex, and she's looking at him in his face like, "What are you saying?" It just didn't make much sense to me. The you know, the BBBOC, they have Spanish speaking referees. I think Steve Gray speaks Spanish. So it would make more sense to bring referees into the fights that have at least some grasp of the language, even if it's not fluent, like some basics, so that you can give some very basic instructions or tell them very basic things. Because when she got the point taken off after that, she was like, "What's the point? Why?" And it's like he couldn't explain to her. He just took the point off. She wasn't going to win, but it's just something I wanted to bring up because I felt it was a little bit unfair on her part. I guess, well, who else was on that card now? All right, so let's move to Caroline Dubois and Miranda Reyes. I think this was a good fight. I'm gonna let you go, seeing as you was live in attendance.
Okay, so this was I've taken all the sound off. Yes, brilliant. So this was again one of them where the build up was kind of exciting. I always like when guys have a little dig at each other at the weigh-in. You know, you see Dubois and Reyes getting heated at the weigh-in. Caroline was saying, you've already lost," and then Reyes gives her a little shove to say, I'm all about this. I'm all about this. Unfortunately, she wasn't all about this, and effectively this was not easy work for Caroline, but it was comfortable work for her. I see Caroline as a developing fighter, and she's showing lots of things in her arsenal that show that she's developing in good ways. She crouches a little bit too low for me because she doesn't use her height and length as much as I like her to. But at the same time, she's very effective with her short to medium shots. So she does want to get inside of your long lever and come in and do damage. Where you saw just now that backhand, left hand straight down the pipe, that's where I'd like her to see it operate a lot more. As you can see, she's got a very good jab, and she doubles it up very nicely. Bit of afters in that first round. But you know, look, this is a work in progress. Caroline starts to put her combinations together really well after the first round of feeling out with herself and Reyes. Reyes starts to feel the power of Caroline a lot more because she's digging in them body shots, as you just saw. Caroline staying in there right in the pocket in front of Reyes. And that's not a good thing because effectively you're letting Reyes do what she wants to do, whereas you want to really be dominating in this particular area. That's where you want to be. You want to be on the outside. Don't let her get inside. You know, keep her on the outside. Keep her away from, being able to launch her own hooks and uppercuts. Yeah, and launch your punches from medium to long range. Going to see some nice 4-5 punch combinations. It's a little bit closer footage here. See some good body work from Caroline. Again, that's pretty much standard stuff, what you see from Caroline nowadays. She's a very accomplished body puncher, and she does that really well, combining, you know, good upper and lower body work. And effectively, she was able to dominate this fight from top to bottom. Yeah, I can't think what the scores were on this.
They were all 100 to 90.
Yeah, there you go. So nothing unusual. Domination really in terms of winning every round. But as I said, you know, she's got to that point now where you're like, okay, is she ready to step into the world level? And in a fight like this with an opponent who was live, she was definitely live. You kind of think, you know, that you need to have a couple of extra gears. And I would have liked to have seen Caroline just go through a few more gears. She seemed to be happy to just sort of sit and pick her punches and win by outscoring her opponent. Whereas what I'm looking for her is to, you know, put the nail in the coffin and try and you know, put some pressure on whereby she stops the fighter at some point in time. And I'm pretty certain she's got the power to do that. But yeah, she seemed quite happy to coast and to win unanimously.
Well, you know what? To be fair, there's one thing I actually disagreed with the scorecard slightly. There was one round, I can't remember which one it was, but there was a round there where I feel like Reyes actually outlanded Caroline. And what I will say, watching it on the TV, right, this was definitely one of those fights where the commentary was horrendously biased. Now, look, I know that Caroline's she's the hometown girl. She's the A side, everything, and she was dominant. She had a really good performance. It wasn't her best. I've seen her perform better. I think she performed better in her last fight, actually. But she was composed, she was confident, and she was pretty much having her way for the majority. But there was times where she was getting, as you said, she's in the pocket. She's actually getting caught. And there was a time where she actually ate a 3-piece combo, and the commentary was literally just talking about, I can't remember what they were saying, but they was having a conversation about something else. But then there was a next time when they was having a conversation. Caroline she landed a good shot. I think it was it might have been a power jab or a right or a power hook. And they broke the conversation immediately to talk about the shot that she just threw. And I think it was only Natasha Jonas who, on a couple of occasions, was like, "No, Reyes is actually doing some good work." Oh, she landed there as well. Matthew Macklin, I think, did it once sporadically, but not very often. But yeah, it was just a case of like, while Reyes wasn't gonna win the fight, she was outclassed. Caroline pretty much dominated. You know, there was that particular period where, you know, give her some credit. You know, call what she's landing, because she's actually, you know, she's landing some decent work. So yeah, that's my little gripe on that. I thought the commentary was horrendously one-sided in that particular instance, and yeah, they definitely. And that's the kind of fight where you can actually call it a bit even, because you already know that this girl hasn't got anything for Caroline like that. So you can give her a bit more plaudits. If anything, it makes Caroline's performance look better if she's having to readjust and you know, change tactics and make adjustments on the fly. That to me would seem a better narrative. But yeah, that was just my little gripe on that. But otherwise, yeah, great, you know, great performance. Typical. She's ready for that world. She's ready for the world level. She's not ready for every person at world level, but she deserves to be there. She's number one in like 3 sanctioning bodies for a reason. So she's definitely gonna end up with a world title this year. And maybe next year, you know, that road to undisputed could come through. The year after that, she could move up, gain some belts at 140, go 147. I can see her probably getting all the way up to 154 before it's all said and done. She's 23. She's got years to go, unless she decides that she wants to end it early for whatever reason. But guaranteed that she'll be a multi-weight world champion. And good South London kid, good Capricorn kid as well. We know we make them tough. So big ups to her.
And can I just say that whoever her stylist is of late, she's been doing some glamour work, and wow, Caroline Dubois is she's looking hot. She's looking hot.
Yeah, the views of Tony the Pugilist Boy do not represent myself or anyone else on the Undefeated podcast channel. His views are his own. If you have any issues with anything that have been said, please take it up with him individually and personally. Thank you for your time. All right. Let's see what else was there on that card. I guess talk about Adam Azim real quick. I haven't really got much to say about it. It wasn't a great performance. I thought that, again, commentary was flattering to deceive with regards to his standing in the fight. There was many times where he was, getting countered. He was getting hit with pull counters with his hands down. And as he goes up the levels, it's just not gonna. I just don't see his defensive frailties leading him in good stead. When he's still never been in there with a puncher, which is fine at this stage, but those punches are gonna come, and he's not tightening up on the same mistakes that I'm seeing fight after fight. So while he's got very good speed, he's got good punch selection, and he's got good reflexes, if he doesn't get those hands to where they need to be, anyone with any decent power or timing at this point, he will be food for them. So that's just what I want him to tighten up on. Long and the short of it, he was winning. He won. I think I had him about 3-2 up, maybe 4-1. I wasn't scoring it properly because I had no real interest in it like that. But I just noticed there was a lot of mistakes that he was making, and that definitely needs to be corrected. But yeah, I will leave it there. That's pretty much my only take on that. Obviously, the shoulder injury to Paulson was a bad one. Feel bad for him with regards to that. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
So Adam Azim, he's a complex character in terms of where his ceiling is. I mean, I'm gonna just say like I said it on Saturday night. In a way, I kind of see Adam Azim as Britain's version of Ryan Garcia, flash in the pan, very flashy, but when he comes up against real world class operators, we're likely to see the real Adam Azim. But the version that we see is very pleasurable to watch. He's a hard hitter, he's a fast mover. He has great footwork. You can see here he feels comfortable with the left hand down. I actually think his hand placement isn't that bad, Base. I mean, if you look now, you can see his hand placement is not that bad, considering where we're at in the fight already. The hands are up. They're loose. It's not like he's walking around with hands at the waist. What he is guilty of doing is what Ryan Garcia does, is when he throws that big left hook, his right hand comes out. And that's where Gervonta Davis was able to capitalize, because he kind of knew that was going to happen. And you can capitalize if you've got really good timing. And that's the secret. You have to have really good timing to be able to land against, a boxer of the caliber of Adam Azim, because he is very, very fast. He's very good defensively, moves in and out very nicely. Look at the distance control. He comes in, does his work, and then he's gone. Again, for the boys at the boxing club, if you're learning things, this is a kind of example. Now, in that last bit, you see a couple of shots that catch Adam as he comes in with his 1-2. This is the end of the fight where Paulson's obviously pulled his shoulder out. But Adam really is very entertaining. Love the hand speed. There are definitely aspects of his game that you can go, he can go all the way. But I just feel like there's some There are some small things that worry me when he gets to the top level. You know, we will see in time whether those things come to fruit to bear. But well done to him. Well done to Shane McGuigan. You know, we were saying on the night, Shane had quite a few fighters out, and his camp is looking hella good right now. You're on mute.
No, sorry, I was doing something else. Yeah, let's get to the co-main. Let's talk about Mr. Viral. You know, the man of the moment. Let's talk about Mr. B Dub. And as you was in attendance again, go for it. Let us know your thoughts.
Right. So I actually chose to sit with KG to watch this fight, and yeah, this was very much entertaining. So you can see the angle has changed slightly because I actually went a little bit further from where I was originally sitting. But yeah, KG and I were both foaming at the mouth. KG especially, he was obviously, you could tell from his reaction yesterday on Monday Night Smoke. He thinks Benn Whitaker is, you know, as exciting a fighter as he's ever seen. And you know, there's no doubt he is undoubtedly extremely skilled in this game of hit and don't be hit. His ability to slip shots, see shots before they even thrown, so that he can move his head, you know, is phenomenal. You know, obviously you can do this kind of thing with opponents like Grader. Could he do it with, you know, Buatsi, Aziz? I obviously think he can. I really do. I think he boxes in a way where he feels comfortable with what he's capable of doing. Yeah. So I've got every belief that even in a title fight, he would still be the character that we've seen today. Yeah. Great body shot there. Picked a beautiful shot. You know, as far as weaknesses are concerned, you know, it's one of them where, you know, you have to just go through the levels. You just have to keep getting better opponents. You have to get to better sparring. You have to go in with people who are going to give you a test where, you know what, I'm going to have to drop some of this stuff. Now, a couple of things that people needed to be pulled up on. The shot where he hits the guy and then spins 360 on one foot, and the referee comes in and admonishes him for it. It's illegal. Quite simply, you're not allowed to show the opponent your back. He did it so quickly though, and he was so far away from his opponent that really and truly, he probably made a bit of a meal of it, the referee. But there's no doubt that he cannot continue to do that in fights. It's just not a legal move. You know, you are not allowed to spin. So anytime you see a fighter does spin in a fight, you'll always see a referee admonish the fighter for doing that particular move in the fight. And sometimes it happens accidentally. And obviously we saw that 2 weeks ago with the young lady who ended up getting stopped because she span and accidentally ended up back towards her opponent, who then went on to take advantage of her position and managed to get the win. You know, you've got to you know, this is a guy who's fought at the highest level as an amateur. You know, he's been in the Olympic Games and he's boxed some of the best boxers in this country. So there's no doubt in my mind that he's capable. You know, timings is everything. You know, he knows that certain shots can be thrown if I move my body in a certain way. And it's interesting because I used to watch Aaron Pryor, and Aaron Pryor used to sometimes face the nearly the complete opposite way to his opponent, and just look out the side of his eye to see what shot he would throw, and then end up throwing a counter shot into an area that was so good in terms of picking shots. So yeah, I mean, just overall, he's a great entertainer. I've seen lots of people dissing it, saying it's a disrespect. It's not good for boxing. Boxing has had boxers like this since Ali. Before that, we've had Sugar Ray Leonard, we had Hector Camacho, we had Vinny Pazienza. You know, I could go through like a treasure trove. Nassim Hamed, you know, of fighters who fought with a style and a panache that made them unusual and made them look attractive or unattractive to some of the public. You know, not everybody likes the flash style. Kirtland Lang, another one, very flashy boxer. Not everybody likes it. You know, some people prefer Mike Tyson over Sugar Ray Leonard. In my eyes, that's a non-contest. You know, Sugar Ray Leonard over Mike Tyson every day, you know, and twice on a Sunday. But I know that there are tons of people who prefer the Mike Tyson style of boxing. You know, you choose what you like and you go with it. So if you don't like it, c'est la vie. You know, look at that. I mean, that's amazing. You know, when Muhammad Ali was doing that years ago, he had the crowd in raptures. So I'm not going to complain. I'm going to say, look, let's enjoy this guy, what he is doing while we got it. And notice that backhand there. He got admonished for that backhand. Again, you know, he would have practiced several times in training. You know, he was getting away with everything. And he thought, oh, just see if I can throw this one in. He knew he could have got admonished for it. He knew it's an illegal shot. But you know what? When you're having fun, why not? Take a few chances. You know, do a few things that will make the crowd happy. So, as I said, I sat with KG. He was more than happy. I know a lot of people in the audience were super happy at what they saw. You know, let's see where it goes now.
Okay. Yeah, look, I haven't really got much more to add. Ben is probably what we'll class as a generational talent. I think he's going to prove to be that. The jury, obviously, we could never know where he's going to end up, what level he's going to get to. Is he going to win world titles? Is he going to be multi-weight, undisputed? We don't know. But in terms of actual just talent levels and application to the sport, he is what the game's been missing. He is this generation's like Floyd, this generation's Purnell, this generation's Oscar De La Hoya. And as I said on Twix the other day, like regardless, love him or hate him, his box office, he will end up being a box office star because you will pay to see, whether you pay to see him get knocked out or pay to see him showboat or pay to see him ice somebody, you will happily pay at some point. He's evoking emotions. And the fact that he's got America in a vice grip at the minute, like, you know, obviously you got people that don't like it, you've got people that do, but for the people who don't, they're going to carry on watching because they don't like it, because they want to see you get your comeuppance. And the people who do, they're loving it, and he's putting on a show. And if it wasn't for him, maybe the card itself wouldn't have been as well received as it was, because some comments that I heard was that it wasn't that great. And, you know, that was one of the talking points. That was something that gave it a bit of a oomph. So, long may it continue. But as I've always said, I've got no issue with him doing it, as long as he carries on doing it as he goes up the levels. Whether or not you can do the exact same things, fair enough. But don't, you know, get to, you know, as far as I'm concerned, get to like that world elite level, then all of a sudden now you're just this textbook boxer. Because at that point, that's when I would feel like, okay, so now you're not really what I expected, just because I want to see you be you at all times. And if this is you now, this needs to be you at the top level. And you live by the sword, you die by the sword. However it transpires, that's what I want to see. Obviously, there needs to be evolution and it needs to be smart. But yeah, that's what I want to see. And I think he will. I think he's talented enough to do it. Big ups to Ben, and big ups to his dad Tony as well, who's been pretty much all over socials, like shutting down anyone who's had negative comments for him over the last few days. And he commented on one of the boxing podcast video for myself, October, Danny, and Maestro. He left comments on there. He left comments on Instagram. Big ups to him. He's doing bits for his son right now. It's lovely to see. yeah, pretty much. That's how I'll leave it. But big ups to Ben, and get him out again on the next card. Get him out on that 31st of March card. He just keep him active as long as he's not injured. He needs to be out and active and in the public eye.
For sure.
All right, and with that, let's get to the main event. Mr. JB, Just Business, Joshua Buatsi, or Joshua Senna Kwasi Buatsi against Super Dan Aziz.
Why doesn't Dan get his Nigerian name?
Because I don't know what his Nigerian name is.
Come on, Base. I thought this was your game, man.
No, I'm not African. I know Joshua. I know Joshua's because that one's out in the public, and I've did the research on that particular one. As far as I know, it's Daniel Aziz. He never told me about any other names to be known by.
Okay.
But yeah, as I obviously had some words about this prior, I will let you start because people know my sort of take on this from yesterday.
Okay. So I have a mountain of footage, but this basically boils down to me. Okay, I'm gonna summarize the fight in total, and then I'm gonna break it down to 2 rounds because they're the rounds I kind of feel like, you know what, you and I have a differences of opinion on certain rounds, and I think we need to break down those rounds, look at those rounds, and talk while we watch those 2 rounds, round 3 and 4, and go, what are we seeing? Are we seeing one or the other? Now, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't do a scorecard at the venue, but I walked away at the end of the night, having seen 12 rounds, convinced that Joshua Buatsi had won that comfortably. Okay. When I say comfortably, that doesn't mean like a whitewash 12-0. No, not at all. Dan Aziz was competitive in every round. Yeah. But for me, Josh just had a little bit better control in most of the rounds. He showed a little bit more flash with some of his shots. I have questions about Josh Buatsi. Some of his shots were wild, very wild. And I kind of think to myself, this isn't what I was expecting of him at this stage in his career. I would have thought his level would be higher. And considering that he's with Virgil Hunter, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I'm not sure that this is a match made in heaven at the end of the fight. Because to me, he should be leagues above Dan Aziz. And I like Dan Aziz, love Dan Aziz. I think he's done wonderful with his limited capabilities to be the fighter that he is. He's taken on all comers at Southern area, English, British, European, Commonwealth, and beat everybody coming. And he deserves his plaudits for having achieved what he has achieved. But I know Josh Buatsi, and I've seen what he can do. And all I'm saying is I could see a higher ceiling for Josh Buatsi than I could see for Dan Aziz. And I was hoping that in this fight, I was hoping it would happen the last fight, in all honesty. But I certainly thought it would happen in this fight, where we would see the evolution of Josh Buatsi. I remember when he left the Olympics in Brazil, I was like, wow, this guy is the next coming of Evander Holyfield. And it really hasn't panned out to be. He's nowhere near the quality of Evander Holyfield. And I hope, if you're watching, Josh, you know, that's not to say I don't love you still and I don't respect everything that you've achieved. But I just think there are levels to this game, and there are levels which Josh hasn't been able to ascend to. But there's no doubt in my mind that he is still a level or 2 above Dan Aziz based on Saturday night. And his control of the fight was such in each of the rounds that I was able to say, yeah, I gave him at least 7 or 8 of the rounds. 7 or 8 of the rounds. 7 or 8 of the rounds, you know, a couple of swings maybe here and there. But the ones that I was particularly interested was, I believe you and Danny had the same fight card, if I'm not mistaken.
No, we was 1 round difference.
Okay. So I've got Danny's scorecard here. So everybody scored. So I've got CompuBox figures. Yeah, I've got total punches landed by round. I've got power punches landed by round. I've got jabs landed by round. I've got the judges' scorecards by round. I have Danny's scorecard by round, and then I have my viewpoint on the fight overall. Yeah, and basically it kind of looks like round 3 and 4 are kind of pivotal, because if I go by Danny's scorecard, he gives both rounds to Adam Aziz, Daniel Aziz, and I'm kind of thinking, well, round 3 was touch and go. Round 4 to me is definitely a Buatsi round. So I've got footage of pretty much most of the fight, but that will take us for hours. So I'm just going to give a little launch into round 1, just to give you the entree. You know, the both fighters came out, started to try to impose the jab. This wasn't one of those high-level fights that was fought at a huge speed. It was a bit of a chess match. You know, the fighters, they knew each other so well that you kind of felt like, you know, I've done enough rounds with you to know what your strong points are and not to give you things that you will find easy. And I think that was the story of the fight. And it's something that you need to bear in mind a lot. If I know another fighter, yeah, and I know what he does well, and I know what he doesn't do well, there's no way I'm playing into his hands by giving him things that I know he will take advantage of. So I think with the amount of rounds that these two have done together and the fact that they know each other's games pretty well, led to this fight being the way it was. You know, it wasn't where one guy could go, well, my style's that much better than your style and that will be sufficient to win this fight. No, I've got to be wary because, you know, this guy, he's going to punch in between my punches, or this guy, he's got big, wide punches to the body. Buatsi, to me, was a better body shot picker than Dan. Dan's got a very good jab. And you see some of that in this early round. I'm going to move on to round 3. So, as I said, round 1, round 2, everybody had that for Buatsi. Round 3, Buatsi landed the most punches. He landed the most body punches. Power punches. Yet Danny had it as an Azim round. 2 out of the 3 judges had it as a Aziz round. So I was kind of confused. So let's have a look at this round. You know, I'm looking at this round, and obviously here we're seeing Josh throwing punches. You know, he looks like, to me anyway, that he's pretty much in the ascendancy from here. Danny's throwing in between punches. Both fighting in the center of the ring. Josh trying to establish a jab. Combination from Azim. From Aziz missing. See those inside shots from Josh. I think they're quite effective. Good shot from Dan, the overhand right. And Josh returns the fire with some nice inside combination work. Josh, to me, just used those combinations. They looked better. Now, something that was very prevalent to me is the 3-punch combination. The third of the 3 punches often goes over the head of Dan. So I'm wary that, yeah, if you say to me the reason I think Aziz won this round is because Josh is missing punches, then that might be the reason. But I'm looking at this round and I'm thinking, to me, this looks like a Josh Buatsi round. What's your thoughts at this stage, Base?
I had this round for Dan Aziz. I had the second round for Aziz as well.
So looking at it as we're looking at it here, you still think Aziz is
Yeah, because there's so many of Buatsi's shots there, even the ones that there's so many of his shots that actually aren't landing. He's got very good body work. He is employing a lot of good work to the body. Obviously, that last hook there was like one of the final things you kind of saw to say, oh, okay, maybe this could be his round. But ultimately, he did good body work. Dan did good body work, but Dan had the cleaner shots up top. He had the shots that the judges could clearly see, and on the TV, you could clearly see his shots connecting better than you could see as Boatsi's for the most part.
Guys in the chat, what did you think of that round 3? I'm going to go on to round 4. I'm going to allow you to commentate on round 4. Did you score round 4 to Aziz?
Yeah, let me tell you my scorecard for you play the rest of that, because
okay.
You know, the reason being because like, I don't want this to end up us being here at 11 o'clock. We still got things to do. Round 1, Boatsi. Round 2, Aziz. Round 3, Aziz. Round 4, Aziz. Round 5, Boatsi. Round 6, Aziz. Round 7 and round 8, Boatsi. Round 9, Aziz. Round 10, Aziz. Round 11 and round 12, Boatsi. That was a scorecard I had. It was 6 rounds apiece. Obviously, the 2 knockdowns created the clear and decisive winner. But even in my from what I was watching on the 11th round, you had Dan Aziz. Everyone consensusly said was clearly winning the round up until the first knockdown, then obviously the second knockdown, and then at that point, like, yeah, the fight's gone from him. Then now there's the one thing I will say is I watched the fight back this morning, and I still had the same scorecard, but there was every round that Dan won except for round possibly round 3, but definitely round 9. Every round that I gave him was, if someone gave it the other way, I can see why they did. It was one of those ones. His rounds were very scrappy, as opposed to Boatsi's clear rounds to me were extremely clear. But that doesn't, but just because one's winning them convincingly and the other one's maybe nicking them on a bit more activity, or 1 or 2 more eye-catching shots to the head, which always count more than shots to the body. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. That's what I saw.
All right, let me set this rolling. This is round 4. Give me your kind of commentary on this round.
Okay, so all right, I can see there Dan landed the first meaningful shot of this round with a up jab. Then you got a straight right hook to the body, which obviously has moved Boatsi out of his position, coming up with the uptake as well. Boatsi shots here, like, he's pushing shots up, but there's nothing that's really like snapping until you get to maybe there. And then when they're on the inside, Dan always seems to get the better of the inside, especially when you don't see Josh shooting to the body. Every time they're on the inside, Joshua's best work comes from the body. But again, if you're throwing those shots at the body, sometimes they're not as easy or not as visible to count and score as those ones that you get up top. Every time they're in close up top, it looks like it's Dan who's actually snapping Josh's head back or breaking his construct in those moments. The one thing Josh is doing, and as I said in the on my Twitter X card, is that he's controlling middle of the ring. Dan is having to move to try and get into position, whereas Josh is constantly making sure he's in center ring and he gets to control the pace and have his breathers when he wants to. And Dan is the one having to move and expend more energy to win the rounds. And that's one of the reasons why, even on when I was doing my card, I said this definitely looks like this pace definitely is suiting Joshua Boatsi, and I can see him being happier with what's going on as a result. Even now, there's a lot of this. Again, you can see bits and pieces here and there. There's good work being exchanged by both. And that's one thing I said. A lot of these, they're close, but the person who's landing the best shots of the rounds is Aziz. Boatsi's got good body work. He's landing some good stuff there. But also, there's a lot of shots when you watch it back on TV, you see Dan was blocking them. So I can't count shots that are being blocked. And vice versa on the other side. But you can tell it was a lot easier to tell the clean shots when they was landing from Aziz as when they was landing from Bawatsi, apart from the bodywork. But this is a round that I gave to Aziz. I've seen it 3 times now, and I still see it the same way. And part of that was just because Bawatsi just wasn't doing enough, and he was trying to fight in bursts. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. So there, guys. I mean, you know, I saw that honestly as a Bawatsi round. It is such a subjective sport, this game. You know, I'm just reading the comments.
Save the comments till after, because let's keep going.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You know, I'm not gonna beat around the bush and try to berate your opinion. This is a subjective sport. Everybody's allowed their opinions. As I said to the people that I was with at the arena, you know, what I see from one side can be different to what somebody else sees on the other side. Obviously, you saw something slightly different on TV, but for me, you know, that round that I just saw, from the viewpoint I saw it, was a Bawatsi round, clearly. I thought, you know, Aziz landed shots, but what I don't see with Aziz's punch is any sort of torque in his shots, which tells you I've thrown a power shot, you know. Whereas when you see Bawatsi throw those hooks, you know, you see the torque, wham, and if he misses, you can tell it's a power shot because it goes way past, you know. Whereas Aziz is very controlled, you know. He throws here, everything hits this point here and no further. Whereas with Josh, it's coming all the way around because he's putting everything into it.
Yeah, I get that, but that doesn't win you around.
Yeah,
just because
no,
your shots.
I get that.
Don't get me wrong. If you both land the same amount of shots, then the person whose shots land the hardest and create the most damage ends up winning it. But if you throw 3 hard shots and I throw 12 soft ones, but they're still power punches, I've still won the round unless you knock me down or you stagger me to such an effect that that's the case. But yeah, ultimately, I saw the fight in that vein. I've got no issue if anyone's got it from 8 rounds to Bawatsi upward, like 8 rounds, 7 rounds, 6 rounds, or whatever, similar like my one. No issue, because ultimately he won the fight. There's no controversy there. There's no arguing that. And the whole 9 rounds to 3 thing, I disagree with. Anything above that, I would disagree with. You know, Danny's scorecard was 115, 111. It was 1 round different to mine. If someone had it 2 rounds different, fair enough, because ultimately there was a lot of rounds there that were very nip and tuck. They were very, you know, tight, and they could have gone either way depending on what you valued more. Like if body punches had the exact same, I guess, significance as head punches, then Bawatsi to me would have landed a lot more rounds. I count body punches. They are scoring criteria, but they don't have the same point system as headshots. That's just you know, a natural thing. Philip answer in the chat, he said he had it 114, 112 to Bawatsi also, which is the same scorecard as mine. So at the end of the day, I understand if people feel like that's way too close, or they're like, oh no, you know, but unless people actually scoring it round by round, when you score something round by round, sometimes your scorecard is a lot different than how you just think the fight's going, because you pay more attention, you see certain things, someone maybe nicked something you maybe didn't give consideration to, or you thought, okay, well, they scraped by, but the other person's still in control. Because you can be in control of the fight and still lose the round, but you're still controlling the fight and the real estate, and people, you know, but sometimes people don't see that, and that's not what they factor in. So when you get certain results, you're like, oh no, that's a robbery because X, Y, and Z. But when you look at it like round by round, actually, you know what? Maybe it isn't. Some fights are, but you know, some aren't. And in this case, no one's disputing who won the fight. It was a clear win for Bawatsi. So whether I scored more rounds to Dan than other people, none of what I did didn't have Dan winning the fight regardless. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was an entertaining fight. I think there was too much respect from the two fighters for them to go gung ho. So what we saw was more of a chess match. Obviously, you see Dan Aziz just have a slight slip there, so that tells me this is late in the fight.
So Tony, before you carry on, just to say, you know what, when you say like they had respect for each other, do you know what? To be honest, I don't actually think it was that. Obviously, they do have respect for each other, but the first rounds number 1 and number 2, those rounds, both guys looked jaded, like they'd been training for too long. Dan's looked flat-footed and slow, and his punches didn't look like they had any snap on them. But Waxy looked like he was forcing his shots out, and like he barely wanted to move, was being mad economic as well. I just think that both guys were overshot. That was my real opinion. Obviously, the canvas afterwards became something different. But even like in the last rounds, you could see, but Waxy obviously tried to get Dan out of there. Then he backed off, but I think he backed off just because at that point he was knackered. Because if you everyone sees, he let him off the hook. That last 10 seconds of the round, he said, "All right, stand right in the middle of the ring," and they both swung it out. So that to me isn't someone that's trying to take it easy on their friend. That's just someone that, okay, I needed a breather because I just expended a lot of energy. That's what I saw. And when people are saying, "Oh, it was a chess match, it was a spar," I just think it was that way because both men they were tired. They were tired from early, or they was like jaded. Just they're overtrained. I think both of them probably left it in the ring, but I mean in the gym. But Waxy just having that natural level above and the experience just dealt with it better. Because when they managed to let their hands go from like round 3, 4, 5, 6 up to like round 9 and 10, before obviously everything happened after that, like they was going at it. They was up in the pace here, but they had to take more breaks. I just think they was tired. So, and yeah, there was spar-ish, but I just don't think it was like let's not hurt each other. I just think it was both guys just was rusty. But in that point, like I said in the video that I did with Dan, he said, it was I do better when I'm active. And I knew that those extra 2 months or the 2.5 months technically it was 4 months or three and a bit from the first fight announcement to this one, that is more like a year and a half out of the ring for Dan, as opposed to Josh, who's probably it's like maybe a month because he's used to fighting with less activity. Dan needs the activity, and that's just what it looked like to me. Like Dan he couldn't get he was getting into a rhythm, but he was having to bust the gut to do it, and because of that, he was tired and he just had no real estate on the shots. That's kind of how I saw it, but. Again, this is like you said, it's all subjective. I could be totally wrong. I could be incredibly right. Who knows? But that's how I saw it. I don't think that they was paying each other too much respect. I just think it was a case that both guys were, they were faded, and that was just what they could produce with the extra time.
Cool. Okay. I think we've done that to death. I hope everyone appreciates the different views and the footage was able to be somewhat educational in terms of seeing what I saw and how Base sees things, because it's very interesting to see how people see fights and what, as I said, can be gold for one person is coal for another. I like boxers who get on their toes and razzle dazzle, whereas some people prefer the flat-footed style of Mike Tyson, get your head in amongst the trees and start sledgehammering down from the base. One last thing before we go, I want to say good luck to the gorilla John Ryder, who today announced his retirement from boxing. I'll be honest with you and say I have not met a nicer guy in the sport of boxing. And I've met a lot of nice guys. I've met, I love boxing so much because I meet so many nice people in the sport. And I've got to be honest and say, John Ryder, I've met him several times, several places, and each time he's just willing to chat. He's salt of the earth kind of guy. I like the fact that he's just a hard-working guy. He doesn't mess around. He never come in and never did anything in his career that made you have to go, he could have, trained a bit harder, or he didn't, he was just such a model professional. So good luck to the Gorilla in his new career, which he's saying he's going to turn to training. He's going to be working in the Sims gym with the Matchroom team. So yeah, good luck to him.
Yep, big up to John, big up to the Gorilla, and all the best for the future. And glad he's safe, happy, well, got all his faculties, and beautiful family. Long may it continue. Family is what's most important. And to the people, he will always be like the uncrowned world heavyweight champ. I mean, the world super middleweight champ. Sorry, but the uncrowned champion. So we all believe that he's won that, and if for nothing else, he's a people's champ. So yeah, Tony, give him your socials.
Yep. So down below in the tick attack, you can see my socials. Pugilistboy on Twitter and YouTube. Pugilistic Boy on Instagram.
Good stuff. For myself, BaseDaKID, the hardcore casual channel. I will be should be at a press conference both tomorrow and Thursday, so there might be some footage for my channel. There may also be some extra footage for Undefeated. It just depends on, I guess, how things go. I'll get some episodes up. There's been some talking points this week, so definitely some stuff there. Instagram, BaseDaKID as well. Again, don't go on there if you're looking for boxing content. I barely post these days, but I can. Sometimes I will go active. Same BaseDaKID on Threads as well. And on TwitX, it's B_A_S_E, or just type in BaseDaKID. I show up, and I'm very active on there throughout the week. So yeah, if you want to lock in, tune in there. Please like, subscribe, and share on this video, and lock into both myself and Tony's social medias, and stay team undefeated. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your night. We will be back. Well, I will be back next week.
Yeah, because as I mentioned, I won't be here next week. I'm flying out to the motherland. I'm going to North Africa, Tunisia for a week. I might try and tune in. I won't be on the show, but I might just you might see me in the commentary, giving my feedback. Certainly on my guy, who is Teofimo Lopez, who's fighting on Thursday. Don't forget, guys, there's boxing this week on Thursday. Teofimo Lopez against Jermaine Ortiz, which I expect to be a barnstormer of a fight.
Actually, before we go, I do have to. Biggs did leave a question earlier. I did say I would get to it. So, Base, please touch on Conor being called out by Davis, Broner, Haney, and do you think he beats any of them hypothetically based on that performance? Biggs, I don't really do the hypotheticals, but I reckon the best chance he's got is Adrian Broner, just due to inactivity. He can beat him on work rate, because Broner barely throws about 12 to 20 punches around, if that. So yeah, I don't think you can knock him out, but he could definitely beat him by war of attrition. The Gervonta Davis thing, probably not. I mean, Davis, I would say, is at least two levels above him, but he is a much naturally smaller guy, so that depends on if there's hydration clauses or what else. I mean, Benn will be open to getting countered, but maybe he might be fast enough to avoid him. So I'm not sure in that aspect. He's got no chance against Devin Haney, because the style that he has, Devin will be able to pick that off all night. You have to be a constant pressure fighter to get onto Devin Haney, and he's just not that guy. And Haney's taller with the longer range. He'll be able to keep him at pace. He looks like he's got more power at 140, and he definitely have more power at 147. So, which it looks like, Conor might be slightly tight at the weight these days. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I don't know if you want to give a quick take on that yourself, Tony. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'll move on. So,
All right, no worries.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, chat to you later on. Catch you next week.